President Trump next week is going out to Michigan to give this speech in front of these UAW workers. And it's interesting because traditionally Republicans would never, I don't think, really be flocking to a union, especially auto workers. I sort of am interested in your take because it seems to me as though President Biden has really blown it. A guy who calls himself Union Joe, he can't get the auto workers, which is an unbelievably traditional Democratic base, to get behind him. What should Trump's message be?
Well, Trump actually, he's right on message. The message is electric vehicles are killing the American automobile industry. They're bad for consumers. They're bad for auto workers. And they're going to destroy the UAW. And let me tell you why that's true. This is one of those unintended consequences of this green energy electric vehicle transition. There's a lot of unintended consequences. We didn't know we were going to be used forced labor and child labor to dig up the minerals. We didn't know that there'd be all these environmental problems with digging up the minerals and with disposing of the batteries. We didn't know that it would cripple our electric grid if everybody went with electric cars. I mean, there are all these unintended consequences when the government mandates something and doesn't rely on the free market and consumer demand to drive the economy. When consumers drive the economy, we end up in a good spot.
Yeah.
When the government mandates it, we end up being Cuba, Venezuela, the former Soviet, all of these socialist countries where that just doesn't work. One of the unintended consequences of what Biden's doing with electronic vehicles is he's going to wipe out the gas-powered vehicle industry. They're Ford, Chevy, Ford, General Motors, Stellantis, which owns Chrysler, are all moving heavily towards these electronic vehicles, and they take 40% fewer employees to make. So you have 40% fewer people on the manufacturing line because they're easier to make. It's easier to make these vehicles. There was a report out within the last couple of days from the America First Policy Institute that said that the car manufacturing industry would lose 117,000 jobs because of Biden's push for these electronic vehicles. Well, most of those are going to be gas-powered vehicle jobs, and they're all going to be they're mostly going to be union jobs lost in union states, because the money from this green energy money that's going to electronic vehicles isn't only going to wipe out jobs, but the money's going to right-to-work states that aren't unionized, because the people that are building these cars, they don't want to build them in the union states because it's too expensive. Labor's too expensive. So the money's going and the jobs are going to right-to-work non-union states, and the jobs that are being lost are union jobs. So when Fain is out there and he says, well, we're going to fight our number one enemy, these terrible companies that hate our workers, and and they demand a 40% increase in wages. Well, Ford, Jim Foley at Ford came in and said, well, you know what? How about 20%? Well, that's not exactly a miserly increase. I think most people would be very happy with 20%, but it's certainly an indication of good faith, if not a generous beginning position in these negotiations. So their enemy isn't these car companies. These car companies want their employees to be happy. They want to be profitable, but they want employees to be happy because your employees are your most valuable asset. They'll go work somewhere else if they're not happy. So they want them to be. The danger here is the Biden administration. The Biden administration is killing union jobs, and it's sending money to non-union states, these right-to-work states. So if the union would wake up and see that, I think they could actually make some progress.